the whole thing is sort of interesting in terms of now what I think has become the narrative around the operation of the San Francisco 49ers, the inner workings, the process, the decision-making. I still sit here today and have very, very few concerns about the way that it operates while still acknowledging obvious and large mistakes have been made.
Right.
Obvious and large mistakes have been made, but to me, that's part of the deal. That's part of the deal, and I guess you can, in the end, look at it one of two ways. You can either say the 49ers just made an absolutely epic, memorable mistake, or you can look at it and say this is the greatest pivot of all time.
Well, I mean, the pivot only comes because you got lucky, and I know you hate the L word because, luck is something that you happen into, and then you actually develop the player plays well, and whatever. I'll take the luck element out of it, but the first part of it is a fact. They made one of the biggest mistakes that you can possibly make, not only in franchise history, but in Bay Area history. But
NFL history.
It may not actually matter. It's like when you play golf and you hit a shot and it's going in the water and it happened to go skip, and you wound up on dry land and you made a par. It's like, oh my God, that could have been a double or a triple bogey, but boy, I got lucky.
Yep.
Or as my guy Steinmetz, I used to call him Captain Horseshoe because he would hit a ball into the trees and a squirrel would catch it and throw it back out of the fairway. And, I hit one left side of the fairway and it hits a sprinkler head in the barranca. Yeah. And it's like, oh my God, I'm a bad guy, turns out. I didn't realize that.
Well, we knew that, but so is he. Let's be honest.
Me.
Yeah.
But in terms of how things go, the Niners went 13-4 last year. So two things can be equally true. Shout out Ralph Barbieri, rest in peace. They made a gigantic mistake, but they got away with it because they went 13-4.
Well, I just wonder sometimes when we look at this, what kind of drama are you going for? I found the second half of the season last year to be the absolute best kind of drama because, listen, I'm like everyone else. I love a good story. I love to watch Netflix. I want to see how things came together. So it's not as if the second half of last year didn't have its controversy. There was plenty of barking about the usage of Trey Lance, the re-signing of Jimmy Garoppolo. We even got to the point where we're talking about the system. There are former players who have insinuated just recently that Kyle Shanahan's system gets quarterbacks hurt. I don't buy that, but there's plenty of discussion in there. And then baked into it is really, really good high-level football, a lot of winning, a shot at a title, seemingly almost every year, definitely when everyone's healthy, and sometimes even when they're not. And that's why I think right now we're heading into a season where the 49ers are going to be just exactly what we're all looking for because the Giants have put everybody to sleep a little bit. And then not last night, that is actually the story I was talking about that I wanted to mention real quick.
Not Justin Thomas becoming the controversial alternate.
More controversial than Brooks Koepka?
No. Koepka's amazing.
Yeah, I know that, but live.
Whatever.
Anyway, let's move on. But yes, the Giants last night, that is exactly, I said about 4 weeks ago, what the problem with that team is they are missing electricity. And that showed up on the mound in the form of Kyle Harrison last night and could potentially on his own change the entire outlook of the rest of the season. And that's the kind of drama you're looking for. And I think it's the kind of drama that the 49ers offer.
Well, the drama for the Niners now is non-existent. Once Bosa signs, and you mentioned this in our show thread earlier today, when Bosa signs, what's the Niners' drama in terms of
kicker?
That's it. It's, can Moody be healthy enough to actually kick? Zane Gonzalez went on the IR.
He's on IR.
I don't know if you saw that. I'm sure you did.
I'm expecting the 49ers to, they brought in a couple kickers for tryouts today.
Sure.
I would not be surprised if there's also a trade where someone who was in the Niners spot, where they're like, hey, we got two good kickers and we're going to trade one at the end. Then they both got hurt. Now, someone else who's in that same position, I would not be surprised if the 49ers landed another kicker.
And then put Moody on IR as well?
I don't know. I don't know how that was going to play out.
Cut Moody. I mean, Moody's got such a big leg, and you put a third-round pick into him.
Yeah.
Third-rounder. You're not going to cut a third-round kicker.
No, the 49ers would never move on from a high draft pick until they've watched enough.
Well, that was 2 years of Trey Lance. I mean, Jake Moody's played 0 games, so that's a little disingenuous of you.
I know.
I like your
Thank you for the
humor.
drop beat. I appreciate it. Yeah, that's what
from DPOY in the corner. But I think in terms of what you're talking about and drama, once the Trey Lance thing has ended, and it has, and the Nick Bosa signing happens, and hopefully, I thought it would happen on your way in here today at noon, 12:30. So. Yep. Wrong again.
Well,
there you have it.
You thought that the agent was going to use today as leverage, which is actually that's a pretty reasoned thought. I know a lot of people thought that was going to be the case. I just think that we've watched the Bosa family for years now, and the word that comes to mind, and this is not a bad word, but they're stubborn. They're stubborn. And Nick is in a situation where he can sit down with his agent. His agent knows the league, canvassed the whole situation. They probably came to a number. And by the way, I think it's the best way to negotiate. It's what I try to do. The handful of times in my life where I bought a car, I always put a piece of paper in my pocket, and it has the number on it. And we're not doing this until they hit that number. And you have to be willing to walk out of the dealership. And I think Bosa is willing to walk out of the dealership.
Yeah.
I don't think that means he's willing to not be a 49er, but he's got a number in his pocket. And the Niners are not getting them until they hit the number.
And I think that the number that he wants is a lot higher than you think, and I think that's why.
What do you think it is?
It's probably at least 32.5 a year.
Oh, I think that's about what it is. That makes all the sense in the world.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
But you don't know that you're right.
How many Thank you. How many Parag Marate jerseys do you see in here? How many John Lynch jerseys are in the crowd, Mark? And I'll wait while you count them up.
I see a Christian McCaffrey one, and you just named the people who are responsible for getting him here.
Right.
So don't dismiss the 49ers front office who brought all of these great players in.
No,
they know they're not stupid either.
I know they're not stupid, but they're running out of time, Mark, in my opinion.
But you don't know that they aren't offering him 32.5. And he's asking for 35.
Bosa with a stroller. Bosa with a stroller. And the daughter in a Bosa.
Right into the backfield. Exactly.
We got back-to-back Bosas over there at table 17. I don't see a lot of Parag Marates in the building.
You don't see a lot of players in professional sports who have this kind of leverage.
Correct.
He's got as much as you can have because literally, I would say it this way. They are, in my opinion, the NFC favorite with him, and I do not think they're a Super Bowl contender without him.
Yeah, I mean, they could still win the West, I think, without him.
But maybe. Yeah, Seattle's good. I think Seattle's going to be a good team this year.
And boy, the Rams. Let's talk about the Rams.
No, they're going to stink.
I mean, the
Cardinals,
the Cardinals
want to stink. They want to stink. They want Caleb Williams.
Yeah, but Calamari, and I don't know if it's on the menu here, but Calamari, he wants to come back and play so that they don't draft a quarterback to replace him. Although, the first out for him is 2028.
Yeah, well, they're gonna be willing to bite the bullet on that one, and it's an organization that did it when they drafted him. They had just drafted Josh Rosen in the top 10.
Yeah,
and they said, "No, there's our guy. Believe you me, if they get the first pick in the draft, they will be taking Caleb Williams."
And they're going to pay $100 million to Kyler Murray to say thanks.
Whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Whatever it takes.
I get it. In terms of what you said about the Niners and drama, there is none. And you mentioned Jake Moody, the kicker. That's like third-tier drama. Outside of that, all eyes on the right tackle position because McGlinchey is gone. And can McKivitz be the guy? That's not real drama. I think the drama builds, though.
Not yet.
If you go to Pittsburgh and you lose, now all of a sudden there's drama across the board.
And if you go to Pittsburgh and you lose because of a missed field goal at the buzzer.
Sure.
I mean, you say that.
Or because you can't pressure the quarterback because Nick Bosa can't play the whole game.
Well, right.
At all.
I don't know if I have any questions about it. If he shows up by practice week, if he shows up by Monday, I would imagine him to get a full complement of snaps. But that's now 6 days away. And the most recent thing we heard from Ian Rappaport is that nothing is imminent. So, but you mentioned things that are like, oh, that's not really resonating or whatever. I mean, the things that don't resonate in our soap opera world where we sit all summer long are actually the things that will resonate a week from Sunday. Like, let's be honest. We have sat here and everybody has barked and commented and all this about quarterbacks that we all hope never see the field. Like, there's a healthy bet that Sam Darnold, Brandon Allen, Trey Lance, and Cooper Rush, that none of them will play any time this year at all. Like that.
But all of them played last year.
Well,
Cooper Rush started, 5 games? He went 5-0.
He did.
And Trey Lance played, and Purdy played.
And Darnold and Allen played. They played for different teams.
But they all played. And we talked about this before.
But nobody wanted them to play.
No, but half the teams needed more than one quarterback for whatever reason. And most of them were injury. Some of them were, we don't have a guy.
But QB3 versus who's your kicker? What's more important to you a week from Sunday? What has a bigger effect on that game in Pittsburgh?
It's going to be who's your kicker.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at my my fantasy golf partner, the great Luke Stauffenegger's in the building, ladies and gentlemen.
How are you, Luke?
Stauffenegger.
Welcome to the party, Luke.
He's probably one of the few golfers better than you, this kid. He's a stick.
I'll believe that when I see it.
And he's going to be my fantasy football partner
you have
as well.
You have a belt and a tucked-in collar on a Tuesday. Of course he's a better golfer than I am.
He's French.
Look at you.
He's French. Of course he's got a tucked-in shirt and a belt.
Beautiful.
And a wine bag.
No,
BYOW, bring your own wine.
I do think
to a beer place. Thanks, Luke.
We get to Sunday, and I do think that's going to be something that a lot of 49er fans sort of realize. And I get why, and I'll even defend it. I know a lot of people, whenever we talked about the quarterback situation all offseason, people are like, gosh, this is too much, or it's being overly dramatic. No, it's a story. It's storytelling.
Yeah.
We've never seen this before. We've never seen Mr. Irrelevant do this, and we've never seen a football team put that amount of draft capital into a player and then move on from him without him ever really playing. So I totally get why it interests people. I think it's going to hit people in the face, though, when they sit down a week from Sunday and realize there are other things going on that really are going to have an effect on this season.
Right.
And we didn't talk about them for 1 minute all summer long.
I think we're going to start to talk about it in the summit today, 4 to 6, with Bonte and Joe and Steiny and Goo. We're going to get into some non-Trey topics because there's a lot of stuff there, like, backup running back. Who's going to get the healthy share when Christian McCaffrey goes out? And I know that Latu was placed on IR, and the tight end thing got a little bit more clarified in terms of the depth position. But the Nick Bosa holdout, so to speak, is certainly a topic as well. But I think as we get into the season and you start to see how things shape up, it'll either be Brock Purdy didn't miss a beat, and he's the same player that we thought he was, or he got better. And if he gets a little bit worse, if he's not as good as he was, is it the elbow? Is it the scheme? Is it defenses have figured him out? It's going to be a topic going forward if Brock Purdy doesn't play as well as he did.
I got some breaking baseball news that we're going to pass along here in just 2 minutes, but because you brought that up, I'm curious where you sit on that. Like, I hear the spectrum. What is your belief that what we saw from Brock Purdy last year was an accurate representation of who he is?
I think he played better than he actually is. I don't think.
Why do you think that?
Because he came in and he hit the ground running, and defenses didn't have a chance to adjust to what he does well, what he doesn't do well. And there are things that he doesn't do well. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm a defensive coordinator and I've gone through the tape 18 different times to see his tendencies, but there's tape on Brock Purdy now.
What are what are the things that he doesn't do well?
Well, for one, he doesn't throw the ball deep very well. And they don't throw the ball deep as a team very often.
Yep.
And I wonder about his velocity with his throws. And I do think that at times he telegraphs where he's going to throw the football. And we'll see if defenses make that adjustment. And I know that when he got hurt, he was pressured from the front side and he did not handle it. I know he holds the ball a little bit too long at times. He's willing to take hits. He's a young player. And I know that defensive coordinators are going to look at all the tape that they have on him, whether it's Pittsburgh or the Rams, who will face him twice, Arizona, Seattle. they're going to make adjustments to what he does.
I will say that I don't feel like quarterbacking is like pitching in baseball when you're like, there's a scouting report and I know what you do. Like, I've seen your curveball and now I can go out and hit it. To me, football is much more like outside of the true elites who can just ad-lib seemingly through anything, Mahomes and Allen and Jalen Hurts. Outside of that, I feel like football is much more about the scheme and then assessing, making the decision, and then accurate, timely delivery. That's not something that you can say, well, a defensive coordinator scouted that, and so now they can stop it. In other words, for what you just said to be real, Kyle Shanahan's going to have to call bad plays. If the plays run open and it's well blocked, and Brock makes good decisions and timely, accurate throws, I don't care what the scouting report is on him. You can't stop that.
Right, but I do think that defenses will scheme themselves up to certain situations to try to put him in difficult spots, whether it's A-gap pressure or forcing him to roll left, which we know he's not as comfortable rolling left as he is rolling right. So maybe you bring additional pressure to his right side, which is the way that he got hurt against Philadelphia.
Yep.
There was pressure to his right side. So defensive coordinators are going to try to find ways to, forget the Kyle Shanahan scheme, but they're going to try to find ways to make him uncomfortable in running the scheme that Kyle calls.
I know you mean it in a different way, but the word pressure is also one that I keep hearing, like, now you've got this trade, and, your phrase was, this better work, right? It better work, Kyle. And I hear a lot of people say, and trading Trey has put more pressure on Brock Purdy. This idea of pressure, I feel, is completely omnipresent in the NFL, especially in the NFL. They have 17 games a year. Everybody sitting with us here at Fieldwork Brewing Company knows you've all been to an NFL game. There's nothing like it. There's absolutely nothing like the intensity of an NFL game, the urgency, the absolute necessity to win that day. I don't know if there's a way for any of these things that happen to make it feel like, now there's pressure. Now there's pressure on Kyle.
For me,
now there's pressure on Brock Purdy.
For me, pressure means pass rush pressure. Not like, the pressure of I'm the quarterback now and I feel pressure. I'm talking about actual pressure. And if I'm a defensive coordinator, I'm bringing multiple rushers. I'm bringing 5, I'm bringing 6, and I'm bringing it all to his right side because that's where Brock Purdy got hurt. And I think that's what you do to make him flush out and go left. That's what I'm saying in terms of pressure.
Yeah, and I totally get that. But, of course you're going to come on the right side because Trent Williams isn't there. All I'm saying is, the 49ers schematically are going to be ready for that.